I'm Pam, and consider this scenario. The individual pulling up in that brand new BMW might currently hold only $52 in their checking account. That designer handbag your colleague, let's call her Linda, just purchased, its price tag exceeds her entire emergency savings fund. The gentleman at the bar, loudly discussing his investment portfolio, likely carries significantly more credit card debt than actual invested assets. And the social media influencer showcasing a life of luxury is currently 3 months behind on their rent payments. A recent analysis discovered that nearly half of Americans possessing credit cards carry a balance from month to month. Yet, paradoxically, luxury vehicle sales continue to climb unabated. Revenue for designer brands keeps expanding. The chasm between the wealth people actually possess and what they are willing to spend to appear wealthy has never been wider. Welcome to the era of the fake rich. Americans currently owe an astounding $1.35 trillion in credit card debt. The average household is burdened with over $105,000 in total debt. Despite these figures, parking lots remain filled with high-end vehicles, shopping malls are packed with customers carrying designer bags, and social media feeds overflow with individuals flaunting wealth they do not genuinely possess. Something in this equation does not add up. Here is what is truly transpiring. A massive segment of the population has discovered how to appear financially affluent while being utterly broke. They have mastered the superficial appearance of success while constructing absolutely nothing beneath the surface. They project an image that disintegrates the moment you examine it closely. Real wealth whispers its presence. Fake wealth screams for attention. Once you understand the indicators, you will begin to see the fake rich phenomenon everywhere. More importantly, you will avoid falling into the trap of becoming fake rich yourself. Because these behavioral patterns don't just look foolish to the trained eye, they actively destroy your capacity to build genuine, lasting wealth. Let's break down the 10 telltale signs that someone is merely pretending to be rich. The first significant sign is falling into the entry-level luxury trap. This occurs when someone purchases the absolute cheapest version of the most expensive available brand. They buy the base model BMW with zero options. They wear the belt dominated by the Gucci logo. They carry the starter tote bag from Louis Vuitton. Their desire is for the badge that signifies status without having the budget to support it. Walk through any corporate parking lot, and you will spot this immediately. A bare-bones Mercedes featuring manual seat adjustments and lacking navigation, or an Audi equipped with the smallest possible engine option and no upgrades whatsoever. These stripped-down vehicles exist solely because manufacturers understand exactly what is happening in the market. Many consumers desire the emblem on the hood far more than they desire the actual quality of the driving experience. Here is what is particularly interesting about this dynamic. A fully loaded Honda Accord costs roughly the same amount as a base model luxury sedan. The Honda possesses superior features, a more comfortable interior, better long-term reliability, and significantly lower maintenance costs. However, the person chasing status has no interest in a Honda. They desperately want other people to notice the 3-pointed star or the 4 interlocked rings. And the financial pain does not stop at the initial purchase price. That entry-level luxury car inevitably comes with luxury-level maintenance costs. It requires premium gasoline instead of regular. It demands higher insurance premiums. It involves much more expensive parts and labor whenever something breaks down. The base model Mercedes costs significantly more to own over time than the fully loaded Toyota. This isn't just an upfront cost difference, but a recurring expense every single month for years. The mathematics of this lifestyle get brutal very quickly. Someone pretending to be rich might spend 25 to 35% of their income just on looking wealthy. Conversely, someone who is actually wealthy typically spends perhaps 3 to 6% of their income on these same categories. That massive difference compounds over decades into hundreds of thousands of dollars that never get invested to grow. Truly wealthy individuals often purchase flashy items only after they have built substantial, income-generating wealth. The fake rich buy the status symbol first, hoping that wealth will somehow follow later. It rarely does. The second sign is constant, relentless money talk. This is the person who cannot stop steering every conversation toward income, investments, spending habits, or deals they are currently working on. Every topic discussed somehow circles back to their finances, and it always happens in a way designed to make them appear successful. You could be discussing pizza toppings, and this person finds a financial angle, saying something like, "Oh yeah, I used to eat that stuff before I started making real money." You mention an upcoming vacation, and suddenly they are explaining their complex travel reward strategy that only works because of the massive amounts they spend on their cards. You share good news about a friend's success, and they pivot to their own achievements within 2 sentences. People who are genuinely secure regarding their financial situation do not feel the need to constantly remind everyone around them how well they are doing. The reminder is actually for themselves, not for you. It is external validation attempting to fill an internal void of insecurity. Watch for a very specific pattern in their speech, talking excessively about money they are about to make rather than money they have actually already made and secured. They might say, "I have a huge deal closing next month," or "Once this investment pays off, everything changes for me," or "I'm working on something right now that's going to be massive." It is always framed in the future tense because their present reality isn't impressive enough to support the image they want to project. The money is not real until it actually hits your bank account. Deals frequently fall through. Investments often go sideways. Opportunities evaporate unexpectedly. But the fake rich talk about projected income as if it is already deposited because the reality just doesn't measure up. Another tell within this category is confusing revenue with profit. Someone might brag about their small business doing $550,000 in sales when their actual take-home profit was only $55,000. That is still decent money, but it is not the financial flex they are presenting it to be. The exaggeration reveals their underlying insecurity. The truly wealthy tend to be very private about their finances. This isn't because they are secretive or shady, but simply because they do not need to prove anything to anyone else. The third sign might be the most alarming indicator of all: possessing a designer item that costs more than what currently sits in their bank account. We see someone carrying a bag worth $5,500 while having only $2,500 in their savings. We see a luxury watch on the wrist of someone with a totally maxed out credit card. This scenario happens constantly in today's society. The purchase is not a celebration of achieved success, it is a costume worn for a success that has not yet arrived. There is an old financial rule of thumb: if you cannot afford to buy it twice over without financial strain, you cannot actually afford it. If a single discretionary purchase represents 2 or 3 full months of your income, that is not evidence of wealth. That is living dangerously far above your means while creating a fragile illusion of prosperity. Think about what that expensive bag actually represents in that context. It does not represent accomplishment. It does not represent smart financial decisions. It just represents a willingness to sacrifice future security for a fleeting present appearance. The bag might impress total strangers on the street for 3 seconds. The empty savings account creates underlying stress for years. I have seen many people finance these designer purchases, literally paying interest on a handbag or making monthly payments on a watch. The item depreciates in value while the debt accumulates interest. By the time it is finally paid off, they have likely spent about 35% more than the original sticker price on something now worth half of what they originally paid. People with actual wealth rarely make purchases that jeopardize their financial foundation. Their luxury items represent a tiny, insignificant fraction of their total net worth, not a significant chunk of their monthly budget. The fourth sign is the behavior of the constant one-upper. Whatever you have done, they have done something better. Whatever you bought, they bought something more expensive. Whatever you accomplished, their version was far more impressive. You get a promotion at work. They got a bigger one. You went on a nice vacation. They spent 2 weeks in the south of France flying business class. You bought a new watch. They immediately explain why theirs has a superior mechanical movement, claiming you can hear the difference in how the second hand ticks. Picture this dynamic at a dinner party. Someone shares the happy news that they just closed on their very first home. Before anyone else can congratulate them, the one-upper jumps in saying, "That's great, But you really should have waited for a bigger place. When I bought my first property, I made sure it had at least 4 bedrooms because anything smaller doesn't appreciate as well. The excitement immediately drains from the room. The person who just achieved something meaningful now feels small. Or perhaps at work, you land a new client and mention it in passing. The one-upper immediately pivots to discussing the bigger client they landed last quarter, the massive commission they made, and the expensive dinner the CEO bought them to celebrate. Your win disappears entirely into their desperate need to dominate the conversation. This is not normal human conversation. It is competition. Every interaction becomes a contest where they must win. The psychology operating here is transparent. One-upping behavior comes from deep insecurity, not confidence. Someone who is genuinely successful can celebrate your wins without feeling personally threatened by them. They do not need to redirect attention back to themselves because their self-worth doesn't depend on being superior in every single exchange. People pretending to be rich feel threatened by any success that isn't their own. Your good news somehow diminishes them in their own minds. So, they reflexively minimize your achievement while amplifying their own to restore their fragile sense of superiority. Real wealth allows someone to be genuinely happy for others. Fake wealth requires constant comparison and conquest. The 5th sign is aggressive social media performance. This is the carefully curated feed filled with luxury experiences, expensive purchases, and lifestyle content designed specifically to project wealth, regardless of whether that wealth actually exists. If someone's money is real, they generally do not feel the need to document every moment for strangers on the internet. But for the fake rich, wealth only feels real when it is validated by likes and comments. The experience isn't complete until it's posted. The purchase isn't satisfying until others have seen it and reacted with envy. Here is the uncomfortable truth about how social media functions. Showing off generates far more engagement than showing discipline. A video titled "Spend $1,200 at the mall with me" vastly outperforms a video titled "Watch me add $1,200 to my emergency fund." The first video feels aspirational to viewers. The second feels boring. This creates a perverse incentive structure. People learn very quickly that projecting wealth generates attention regardless of whether the wealth is real. So they perform prosperity for the camera while building nothing substantial behind the scenes. Nobody posts photos of themselves doing dishes. Nobody films their intense budget spreadsheet sessions. Nobody shares the 18 hours they spend at home on a Saturday because they are saving money. Social media displays highlights, not reality. But the fake rich need you to believe these highlights are their everyday existence. Watch for fake engagement on these profiles as well. Some accounts have millions of followers, yet their comment sections are full of obvious bot accounts saying the same generic phrases over and over. They are buying the appearance of influence to support the appearance of wealth. It is layers of fabrication stacked on top of each other. Meanwhile, actual wealthy people often maintain a minimal social media presence. They don't need the external validation, and they certainly don't need strangers knowing their financial business. The 6th sign is the habit of leasing luxury cars. This deserves its own specific category because it has become so normalized that many people do not recognize it as a major financial red flag. When you lease a vehicle, you are essentially paying for the steepest depreciation years, the most expensive period of a car's life, and then simply giving the car back at the end. The dealer estimates what the vehicle will be worth at the end of the lease term, and you pay the difference between the purchase price and that residual value, plus significant interest, taxes, and fees. For example, a $52,000 car estimated to be worth $32,000 after 3 years means you are essentially financing $20,000 of depreciation plus interest. Then you return it and start the process over with a new lease, paying those fees and that steep depreciation all over again on a fresh vehicle. This cycle never ends. Lease, return, lease, return. It is perpetual payments with zero equity ever being built. Someone who leases continuously for 22 years has made hundreds of thousands of dollars in car payments and owns absolutely nothing at the end of that period. Leasing is indisputably one of the most expensive ways to operate a car over a lifetime, but it allows people to afford the monthly payment on vehicles they could not actually afford to purchase outright. That is the entire appeal. The person driving the least luxury sedan looks successful to passers-by. The payment fits tightly into their monthly budget. What doesn't show is that they are building zero equity, paying premium insurance rates, and locking themselves into perpetual debt payments with nothing to show for it at the end. If you genuinely want a luxury vehicle for reasons beyond mere status, buying used makes far more sense financially. But buying used doesn't provide that new car smell and the pristine current year badge that fake rich requires. The seventh sign is the use of counterfeit goods. If someone is carrying fake designer items, they are literally advertising the fact that they are pretending to be something they are not. People who actually know and understand luxury goods can spot counterfeits from across the room. The stitching is incorrect. The quality of the leather differs sensibly. The logo placement is slightly off-center. The hardware feels cheap and lightweight. Everything about the item screams imitation to anyone paying close attention. Here is the deep irony of this behavior. Counterfeit goods are not even that cheap anymore. A decent knockoff bag might cost $250 or $350. For that exact same amount of money, you could buy a genuinely well-made bag from a reputable brand that isn't pretending to be something else. Real leather, quality construction, original design, just without the famous logo. But that is not what the fake rich desire. They do not actually care about quality or craftsmanship. They care solely about the perception that comes with the logo. So they will pay $350 for a poorly made fake rather than $350 for a well-made original, because the fake carries a name people recognize. Some people claim they just like the design and aren't trying to fool anyone. But if that were true, why choose a knockoff of a specific high-status brand? Why not buy something original and well-made from a company you can actually afford? The brand choice reveals the true motivation. It's about the logo, not the design. Counterfeits deliver neither status nor quality. The people you are trying to impress can tell it is fake, and the item itself is poorly constructed. You have paid good money to carry around physical evidence of your own pretense. The eighth sign is constantly promoting get-rich-quick opportunities. I'm not talking about obvious scams, which are easy to spot. I mean the slightly faster than normal schemes that sound almost plausible on the surface. Things like complex forex trading, high-pressure drop shipping, volatile crypto day trading, risky option strategies, multi-level marketing schemes, or concepts like infinite banking. They always present some revolutionary system that's going to change everything if you just get in right now. A tiny, microscopic fraction of people succeed at these activities long-term. The vast majority lose money rapidly. But the fake rich love talking about these opportunities because they operate entirely in the future tense. They are not discussing wealth they have built. They are discussing wealth they are about to build. The massive potential justifies the current lack of actual results. Here is how it usually plays out. Someone discovers a new opportunity and goes all in on it. They talk about it constantly to everyone they know. They try to recruit friends into it. They project massive confidence in the system. 6 months later, they have lost significant money. But they never mention that part. Instead, they have already moved on to the next big opportunity. They are equally confident in the new scheme. They are equally vocal about its potential. The pattern repeats every year or two like clockwork. It is a trail of failed ventures they never acknowledge, always chasing the next thing that is definitely going to work this time. Admitting failure would shatter the identity they have constructed. So they just keep moving forward, hoping the next opportunity finally delivers the results they have been promising everyone, including themselves. Real wealth is built slowly and boringly over years or decades through consistency. It rarely comes from trying to turn $6,000 into $1 million in 12 months. But slow and boring doesn't match the fake rich identity. They need something dramatic happening, even if that drama only exists in their financial projections. When someone cannot stop talking about their next big opportunity, their current opportunity probably isn't delivering what they claim. The ninth sign is giving condescending money advice. Different from simple one-upping, This person actively criticizes your financial decisions and tells you what you should be doing instead based on their own questionable choices. You mention you are happy with your current apartment. They say you really should have upgraded by now given your income level. You are driving a reliable used car. They question why you haven't financed something newer and flashier. You are saving aggressively in index funds. They tell you that money should be invested in whatever speculative asset they are currently invested in. The advice is always unsolicited, and it always points directly toward whatever choices they have made, regardless of whether those choices make any sense for your specific situation. Here is what is actually happening underneath the surface. They need to justify their own precarious decisions. If you are succeeding with a different, more conservative approach, it threatens their entire narrative. So, they criticize your path to validate their own. Your financial situation differs from everyone else's. Your goals differ, your risk tolerance differs, your timeline differs. Someone who genuinely understands money knows perfectly well that different strategies work for different people. The fake rich need everyone around them to validate their choices because deep down, they are not confident those choices were right. Someone genuinely wealthy can acknowledge that different strategies work for different people. They don't need you to make the same choices to feel good about their own. The fake rich need everyone around them to confirm they're doing things correctly because deep down, they're not sure. The 10th and final sign is simply overdoing it. This is the appearance of too many logos visible at once, too much jewelry worn simultaneously, cologne that is far too strong. They become a walking advertisement for luxury brands rather than a person who happens to own some nice things. They have seen wealthy people portrayed in movies and decided to cosplay that specific aesthetic in real life. Everything about them screams money. Nothing about them whispers it. Here is something worth noting. Look at photos of actual billionaires on ordinary days, not at black tie galas or press events, but just living their daily lives. Mark Zuckerberg wears the same simple gray t-shirt constantly. Warren Buffett drives a modest car and still lives in the same house he bought decades ago for a 5-figure sum. Many of the wealthiest people on the planet are people you would pass on the street without a second glance. They have nothing to prove. Their identity isn't tied to what strangers think of their appearance. They could buy anything they want, so they don't feel the obsessive need to buy everything to show off. The fake rich operate from the exact opposite psychology. They feel they have absolutely everything to prove to the world. So every item becomes a statement. Every accessory becomes evidence. The louder the physical display, the more desperate the underlying attempt to convince others. The wealthiest people in most rooms dress normally. Maybe they wear 1 or 2 quality items, but nothing designed specifically to broadcast status. They don't need to prove anything to strangers. Their confidence doesn't require external validation through their appearance. When every single item someone wears is designed to signal wealth, that signal eventually just becomes noise. It reads as desperate rather than successful. The effort involved shows through. Actual wealth tends to be understated because it doesn't need to try so hard. Real wealth isn't about what you show to the world. It's about what you have built underneath. It is the freedom to make choices without immediate financial pressure. It is the security of knowing you can handle virtually any emergency. It is the compound growth happening quietly in investment accounts that nobody else ever sees. Fake wealth is a constant performance that gets more expensive over time. The luxury car needs maintaining. The designer wardrobe needs updating to stay current. The lifestyle needs sustaining. Every month, more money flows toward maintaining an external image, while nothing flows toward building internal substance. The person pretending to be rich often ends up significantly poorer than they started. The effort of appearing wealthy prevents the accumulation of actual wealth. They are running on a treadmill that speeds up the longer they stay on it, working harder and harder just to maintain an illusion that delivers nothing real in return. Here is what separates real from fake at the deepest level. The fake rich optimize for how things look to others. Every financial decision passes through a filter of external perception. Will this impress people? Will this signal status? Will this make me appear successful? The actually wealthy optimize for how things work for themselves. Does this purchase make sense given my long-term goals? Does this decision move me toward financial freedom? Does this choice align with what I actually value, not what I want others to think I value? One approach builds wealth, the other bleeds it dry. The next time you see someone projecting massive prosperity, look closer. Notice the base model luxury car. Notice the constant money talk. Notice the social media performance. Notice the one-upping behavior and the condescension. Notice the designer items that might cost more than their entire savings account balances. Fake rich behavior is everywhere once you know exactly what to look for. More importantly, check yourself. Are you making financial decisions based on what genuinely serves your future? Or are you spending to maintain an image that is slowly bankrupting you? Real wealth whispers. It doesn't need anyone to notice it. It doesn't require validation. It exists whether or not anyone else sees it. The goal isn't to look rich. The goal is to actually be rich. One path is expensive, exhausting, and leads nowhere. The other builds quietly until one day you realize you have options most people only pretend to have. Choose carefully.